Ladies and gentlemen, it's a big, weird, wild world out there, friends, and here we stand. Al pie del cañón, ready for anything. I'm Rob, and you're listening to
The ProBoh Show!
Good morning, everyone, on this beautiful Tuesday morning, 8:30 a.m. Central European Time, and you're joining me live on The ProBoh Show. How's it going out there, friends? Yeah, for those of you listening on the radio, this is probably either Tuesday night or Wednesday morning, but if you want this show as fresh as can be, you need to join me on twitch.tv/professional bohemian. twitch.tv/bohemio profesional, pero en inglés. And as always, you can always interact with the show outside of our live times. You can do that on my Instagram, which is @professionalbohemian. And of course, if you're extra specially cool, sexy, charming, well, you can join me on my Patreon, can't you? Where you get all access to all the VODs that I record, as well as some original series that you can only get access to there. That's Professional Bohemian on Patreon. If you search for me, you'll find me there. All right, what's coming up in today's show? Of course, this summer period, I've been asking you to vote on the topics. I provide a topic and then some ideas, like 10 topics, and you guys vote on them on my Patreon page. You can join that for free if you want to, and you will have access to the votes. And it's very simple. You just vote for the 5 you like. Today's topic is no one is as open-minded as they think they are. Nadie es tan abierto de mente como cree. That's today's unpopular opinion, and after that, in today's show, we're going to our 100 humans, where we ask them to name something people often change their opinions about. Nombra algo sobre lo que la gente suele cambiar de opinión. Seems to me we're in a world where people change their opinion less and less, right? People more and more entrenched into their own unique view of the world, and the internet algorithms tend to prey on that instinct, make us all believe we're in possession of the future. But open-mindedness still exists, or does it? Let's see. Well, we'll talk about that later. First of all, I want to turn my attention to our friends in the chat. First of all, we have the bridge here. Morning, missed you yesterday. Eugene is here. Hi guys, how are you doing, Eugene? Vero, good morning, beautiful bohemians around the universe and beyond. Good morning, Vero. Who else do we have? I've got a lot of you. We have some problems with the internet these days, says Eugene. Hopefully not a consequence of the war and everything. You're all safe and sound out there, Eugene. We are lucky not hearing the elevator music, says the bridge. Yeah, if you don't tune in live, because I'm working from the home studio these days, and you don't get the benefit of hearing my electronic elevator music that mollifies you while I'm waiting to come on air. Mike is here. Good morning, dear Bohemians. Today is Barack Obama's birthday, so let's remember what he used to say. Yes, we can. Yes, we can, friends. Yes, we can. All right. I didn't know that. Barack Obama's birthday. I'm sure Donald Trump is going to help him celebrate. All right. Donald Trump, of course, known for celebrating previous presidents. Enough on that. I don't want to invoke the orange one, as we're having a nice time today. Carmen's with us. Good morning, dear Bohemians. Good morning, Carmen. How you doing? All right, should we get into some news? I think we probably should. And we're going to go to the Netherlands, I think, right, for our first piece of news. This bookseller thought a large request was spam. Este librero pensó que una petición enorme era spam. It's AI companies scanning and destroying them. Eran empresas de IA escaqueando y destruyendo sus libros. Uh-oh. As we know, through a brief glance at history, the people who burn the books are the good guys, right? Book burners, usually the good guys in history, or not? Yeah. A Dutch antiquarian bookseller, Pieter de Vries, received what looked like a suspicious bulk request for more than 3,000 books from a company called 2077 AI. The email included a detailed spreadsheet of mostly recent academic titles and asked for pricing and shipping estimates to China. Assuming it was spam or phishing, spelled with a PH, phishing, that's what black hat or hackers or, generally untoward people on the internet do to access your private information and data. Phishing, spelled with a PH instead of an F. Assuming it was spam or phishing, De Vries ignored it, only to later learn through a journalist that the request was likely related with AI companies seeking large quantities of books. Several other Dutch booksellers received similar inquiries and dismissed them as scams, highlighting how unusual such large-scale requests are in a market typically focused on rare individual volumes. Here's my initial question, right? Why destroy the books after scanning them? Is that not... does that not seem a little wasteful? The incident reflects a broader trend of AI companies sourcing physical books to train their models, moving beyond internet data in search of high-quality text. Previous court records showed that companies like Anthropic have purchased millions of books, scanning them by cutting off their spines in a process known as destructive scanning, and then discarded the originals. While a US court ruled that using legally purchased books for training AI qualifies as fair use, the methods of sourcing these books remain opaque. Reports of bulk purchases across Europe and experimental services to supply books at scale suggest a growing but largely hidden physical supply chain behind AI development. So that's why they destroy the books, right? They cut off the spine so they can properly scan the images. But oh God, we don't have to go too far back in history. There is something, I don't know if you're like me. Tell me in the chat, friends. But is there not something malign, malignant, some kind of... Do you not get an ache at the bottom of your stomach to hear that people are destroying books? Does it not make you feel as bad, as dirty as it does me? There is something malicious about the idea of destroying a book. I don't know whether it is because of, historically engaged in by, I think to most of our recent memories with the German Nazi party, right? But I think it's the idea of robbing that book from future generations, right? Especially if these are quite rare books. Mike here says, they can't be allowed to simply scan the books and use its contents. What about copyright? Yeah, I mean, legally speaking, apparently this is classified as fair use, meaning that because they've purchased the book, scanning the material. I mean, here's the thing. Here's the argument that AI companies would make, Mike. They would say, well, look, if I'm a writer and I purchase a book and read it, and then that inspires a book of mine, then I'm not infringing copyright. And that's, I think, the legal loophole, the kind of thinking of these AI companies. So I'm not sure how you think about that, but destroying the books for me is what really makes my skin crawl a little. Let's do one more real quick. Google Earth. Did you guys hear about Google Earth? Do you use Google Earth? Do you know what Google Earth is? It's kind of the big brother of Google Maps. It's where you can explore the globe. Well, they did have for a little while an AI image generation function. Let's dig into this piece of news. Google Earth's new AI image generation function didn't survive a day after users deepfaked disasters. La nueva función de generación de imágenes con IA de Google Earth no sobrevivió ni un día después de que los usuarios creerán deepfakes de desastres or desastres. This is why we can't have nice things, friends. This is why we can't have nice things. Google briefly launched a new AI-powered feature in Google Earth that allowed users to alter real-world locations using simple text prompts, powered by its Gemini Nano Banana 2 model. Within hours, users began creating highly realistic but entirely fake satellite imagery, including fabricated refugee camps, nuclear facilities, and disaster scenarios. The tool's ease of use and convincing outputs quickly raised alarms about its potential to spread misinformation. You'd think at Google, right, one of the most powerful companies in the world, there is someone in the room there to say, hang on guys, maybe this is not a good idea. Examples shared on social media showed how quickly the feature could be abused, with one researcher demonstrating how a single sentence could generate a misleading geopolitical imagery, while others simulated floods and attacks in seconds. The rapid misuse prompted Google to remove the feature in less than a day, highlighting the risks of releasing powerful generative AI tools without sufficient safeguards, especially when they can manipulate representations of real-world locations. Yeah, I mean, is this an example of, why we can't have good things? Or is this another example of a big tech company shoving AI where it just does not belong? It is the new IoT. Do you remember when IoT was a buzzword? The Internet of Things. That's why we've got coffee machines with AI that will tell us the time and the temperature outside. I don't need my washing machine to be connected to the internet, friends. So the Internet of Things, and that kind of slowly faded into obscurity, didn't it? And now the new IoT, the new buzzword, the new thing being forced upon us seems to be AI in everything, even where we don't need it, including Google Earth. But on that note, friends, let's go to today's unpopular opinion.
Unpopular opinion.
Vero here says, I like audiobooks a lot. Sometimes they help me reading, but I can't imagine living without physical books. Yeah, me neither. I think the most malicious thing about that story, that first story about the Dutch book company, is that I don't mind the AI companies scanning them if that's what they want to do, but then resell them. Let that book live on. Especially if it's rare books. If they are rare, hard to find copies of books, why destroy them? Why? Just so it's easier to scan? Come on. Anyway. All right, today's unpopular opinion voted for by you. Mike says, does Google Earth still struggle with bridges? I'm not sure, but at least a couple of days ago, you could have generated a bridge with AI. Anyway, today's unpopular opinion is voted for by you. If you're not on my Patreon, then you don't know what I'm talking about, but you should be. You can join for free and vote on the unpopular opinions this week and next week and the week after. It's very simple. Okay, so it is, no one is as open-minded as they think they are. Nadie es tan abierto de mente como cree. What do you think? What do you think about this? Is it true? I mean, we all tend to think we're quite open-minded, don't we? Is the debate really about whether we can observe our own minds objectively while using those same minds to perform observation? It seems to me that rather than think critically, what most people do is find online commentators and parrot their opinion instead of having to think for themselves. And because they consume so much content, they think they operate under the illusion that they are in some way open-minded. But if all you do is parrot other people's opinions, friends, I've got news for you. You're not open-minded at all. So should we dig in? How did they vote on Instagram? Okay, on Instagram, when I made that statement that no one is as open-minded as they think they are, Instagram said 89% true. Yeah, predictably. Right? I think it's going to be a hard one to argue against today, but we'll do our best. So let's get into the pro column, those people who agree with today's statement that no one is as open-minded, abierto de mente, as they think they are, como cree. We judge our intentions, but other people see our reactions. Most people define open-mindedness by their willingness to hear another opinion. Yet listening politely is not the same as seriously considering that one might be wrong. We notice our curiosity, while others notice the defensiveness, mockery, or dismissal that appears when belief becomes uncomfortable. It's an interesting topic for this show in particular, because this show is its lifeblood is opinions, right? And having us take, I don't know, what would you call it? Common wisdom, and putting it under a microscope and offering rebuttals. And I've seen some of the reactions. Remember, I'm the only presenter on Vaughan Radio that's ever had a death threat. So unaccustomed to people to being open-minded. So to offer some kind of rebuttal, a defensive reaction does not necessarily prove that someone is closed-minded. People can feel threatened or irritated initially, but still reflect honestly once the emotion has passed. Okay. Confirmation bias is difficult to see from the inside. People naturally notice evidence that supports their existing beliefs and scrutinize opposing evidence more aggressively. Because this process feels like ordinary reasoning, we often experience our preferred conclusion as the result of objective thought rather than selective judgment. Yeah, confirmation bias. I believe this, therefore, when I receive information, even to the contrary, I will still be inclined to believe my initial thought. But because I've been exposed to other ideas, I will call that objectivity, and it's really not, is it? Bias, though, is a tendency, not an inescapable prison. People can overcome their confirmation bias, and that is one of the functions of this show, friends. So hopefully I've made you all a little open-minded, as I have become through presenting this show. I'll be honest with you. All right, let's continue. Tolerance often ends when identity begins. It is easy to be open-minded about issues that do not threaten our values, status, community, or self-image. The real test comes when an idea suggests that our political group or moral principles or professions or way of life may be mistaken. At that point, curiosity often becomes self-defense. I imagine you've been in this position, right? You've been engaged in a discussion with someone that's deeply entrenched in certain ideas. You know, whether that be political or religious, you know, and you confront them with those ideas. Those ideas that you inherit from peers or family members, right? Whether that's a football team they support, or a particular religion, or a political party or political movement, you're confronting them with those ideas, and whoa. All of a sudden, this tolerant, interested, curious friend becomes really defensive. I mean, some beliefs do deserve strong commitment, but refusing to treat every attack on a core value as equally plausible may not reflect moral seriousness rather than intellectual closure. We'll do one more in the pro column, shall we? We mistake exposure for consideration. People often believe they are open-minded because they consume news, listen to debates, or speak with people who disagree. But exposure can become a form of intellectual tourism, in which opposing views are observed, categorized, and rejected without ever being allowed to alter anything. Yeah, quite often the most entrenched people, the people who are most entrenched in a certain way of thinking, actually do read and expose themselves to a lot of literature on the topic. But it is intellectual tourism. If you don't open your mind to the possibility you may be wrong, then what you're doing, you are acting like a tourist, visiting a place but never thoroughly immersing yourself in it, right? And it is just the same. Instead of intellectually really considering another idea, what you're doing is hearing it and then using a confirmation bias, sesgo in Spanish, right? Bias, to write that opinion off. To discredit that opinion within your own mind before it's really even taken root. I mean, to offer some kind of rebuttal, genuine consideration does not require changing one's mind, does it? You can consider another opinion and still, with the strength of your own argument, without confirmation bias, say, well, that's wrong. A person may understand an opposing position fully, but still conclude that they're right. It's an interesting one today, right? It's a tough one. Let's get into the cons now, right? The cons where how many people voted on the cons, excuse me. 11% of people. 11% of people. Did I receive a few more votes? I think I did. 11% of people voted false, 89% true right now on Instagram. So let's get into the false column. Some people are as open-minded as they think they are. Open-mindedness does not require neutrality. Being open-minded means being willing to examine a claim fairly, not approaching every idea without prior beliefs. A person can hold strong convictions while remaining prepared to revise them when better evidence appears. Look, depends on the strength of the evidence, right? Look, I'm not an anti-vaxxer and I still believe in science. Okay? In the face of listening to Joe Rogan, I've still decided that the evidence sways in favor of science. Joe Rogan or his peers, right? That doesn't mean I'm closed-minded. It just means that the convictions I hold in science are strong enough, or the evidence presented isn't strong enough to change my mind. Let's get into the second point. People genuinely do change their minds. Individuals abandon religions, political ideologies, careers, relationships, and deeply rooted moral positions. These changes can be painful and socially costly, showing that some people are capable of placing truth or experience above identity. I mean, how many times have you heard me on this show say, oh wow, you guys have changed my mind? I have an inbox on Instagram full of people saying, I heard the show today and I can't believe you changed my mind. I know open-mindedness exists, even if it's just within the realms of the fans of this show. I know it exists because I see the evidence of it every day. Every week I'll get a message from someone saying, oh my God, you haven't changed my mind, but you've brought me closer to the middle because there were things that I hadn't considered. And I'll repeat our tagline again. What's the point in having a mind if you can't change it? Right? I will believe what I believe until evidence to the contrary appears. We should all be using scientific method to verify our thoughts, right? Or our thought processes. Anyway. Intellectual humility can be deliberately cultivated. Some people actively search for opposing arguments, distinguish confidence from certainty, and ask what evidence would change their minds. These habits do not eliminate bias, but they can make self-assessed open-mindedness reasonably accurate. And again, you guys are a perfect example of this, right? We sit down and we vote and we maybe disagree, but we thoroughly consider the other side of the argument. We expose ourselves to it, and we aren't the only people on the planet that do that. Perhaps everyone else isn't as lucky as we are to have a community that actively engages in this, but we aren't the only people. Some minds are more flexible than others, and I think maybe we'll finish off with this one. Personality, upbringing, education, and experience affect how people respond to certainty and disagreement. It is too absolute to claim that everyone significantly overestimates their openness, when some people consistently show curiosity, tolerance, and willingness to revise. And we see that in everyday relationships. Apologies are a good example of that, right? You wouldn't apologize if you didn't look at your behavior and think, oh my God, you know what? On further consideration, I think I was wrong there. I'm sorry. If we weren't open-minded, apologies wouldn't exist. People are not incapable of evaluating their own character, right? Someone who has repeatedly changed position, welcomed criticism, and remained calm under disagreement may have good evidence that they are genuinely open-minded. So it's hard for me to throw my hand in the fire and say that most people aren't as open-minded as they think they are. And I think by saying that, you put yourself in some kind of a position of authority, right? Looking down upon everybody else. Oh no, look, most of you aren't as open-minded as you think. You're not as open-minded as me. And let's be honest, if you're saying that, if you're using that phrase, that no one's as open-minded as they think they are, then perhaps the one who lacks open-mindedness is you. So it's an interesting one today, friends. It's an interesting one today. I'm going to post a poll in the chat, una encuesta, and I'm going to ask you to vote. Today's topic is, no one is as open-minded. Nadie es tan abierto de mente como cree. Now, no one is as open-minded as they think they are. Do vote in the poll. It will go up in a few short minutes. And just another reminder, friends, if you're listening to this on the radio, you can in fact join us live at our regular time at 8:30. Currently, while this is being broadcast, we're broadcasting a fresh episode, and you can join us live and have me be the conduit of your thoughts and ideas, just like Eugene, Carmen, Gigi, Mike, Vero, Bridge, all of you guys. And thank you for being here and interacting with the show. We're going to go on a very, very quick commercial break while you vote. If you are watching live, you will see the vote change live as you are waiting. Friends, I will go for a very quick coffee, and I'll see you guys in just a few minutes. Hey guys, if you'd like to support the show, you can do so on Patreon. That's patreon.com/professional bohemian. There you'll find VODs of the episodes as they are recorded live, blogs, vlogs, and behind-the-scenes content. If you'd like to watch the show live, you can do so on twitch.tv/professional bohemian, and you can participate in the polls we use in the show on Instagram @professional bohemian or Twitter @ProBoh, PROBOH. Okay, on with the show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Now, in the second half of today's show, if you're listening to this in the morning, it's now 9 a.m. Central European time, and you're joining us live. Welcome. If you just tuned in, what did you miss? We looked at some news about a Dutch bookseller, an antiquarian bookseller, who received an order for 3,000 books. The upshot of that is it was going to AI companies to scan. And in the scanning of those books, they actually destroy them, which is really what kind of, the part of the news, I guess, that really affected me. Of course, the bad guys in history are usually the ones that burn the books. And there is something about destroying that kind of intellectual property that just sits badly with me. And we looked at the news about Google Earth's feature, their new feature that had the lifespan of a fruit fly. They launched a new AI image generator as part of Google Earth, and immediately people started generating images of disasters in real-world locations. Friends, the very definition of why we can't have nice things. and then as we normally do, we moved on to today's unpopular opinion, which is, I don't think I've done a good job of arguing this one. I'm going to be honest with you. No one is as open-minded as they think they are. Nadie es tan abierto de mente como cree. But why do we believe that so strongly? You still have time to vote, around 3 minutes, I think. But why do we believe that so strongly? I think it could be that we are maybe misinterpreting what open-mindedness actually is. I mean, the claim it kind of assumes that people judge their own abierto de mente, by asking, how many beliefs am I willing to abandon, right? But genuinely open-minded people hold many strong convictions because they've already tested them against serious alternatives. Like, I assume most of you don't believe in the flat earth. If you considered the idea that the flat earth existed, If you tomorrow woke up and said, you know what, these flat earth guys quite compelling, would that make you open-minded or stupid? Right? Open-mindedness is not demonstrated by constantly doubting yourself. It's demonstrated by changing your mind when reasons are genuinely better, and some people are perfectly capable of knowing this is how they behave. You know, if you don't consider, if you look at, I don't know, conspiracy theories and judge the veracity of those claims as false, doesn't make you closed-minded, does it? I don't think open-mindedness is about abandoning your beliefs. I consider myself quite open-minded, but I disregard things based on poor evidence or things that I judge as poor evidence. Is the debate really about whether we can observe our own minds objectively? I think maybe it is, right? Open-mindedness is especially difficult to measure because almost everyone approves of it. Few people describe themselves as rigid, tribal, or resistant to evidence. No one would say, you know me, closed-minded, that's me. No one would say that, right? Instead, we redefine open-mindedness in ways that preserve a positive self-image, I think. But open-mindedness isn't about considering every ridiculous belief. It's about being able to reject evidence that we don't feel like is strong enough. And I think everybody's capable of doing that. And sometimes it leads people into erroneous rabbit holes, and that's fine. Doesn't mean they're not open-minded. I think the claim that no one is as open-minded as they think they are really speaks more about the person saying it than the person believing it. That maybe is my take today, having reviewed the pros and cons together. I think that's where I am. But you know what, friends? Who gives a damn about where I am? What we care about is where you are. So let's take a look at some of your ideas here. Okay, let's start with Vero. She says, true. Normally people say they are very open-minded, but when you talk about certain things, you can't change their minds that easily. Yeah, okay. But does that mean they're not open-minded though? Does that mean that they haven't fully considered the evidence and come to a conclusion that you maybe personally just don't agree with? Look, I don't agree with flat earthers. Or I don't agree with people who don't believe in man-made climate change. I don't agree with them. Okay, I feel like the evidence is sufficient to say that man-made climate change is a real phenomenon, and you know that's where I sit on this. But I can sit down and have a chat with someone who believes it's just a cyclical event in nature. And I think the lack of willingness to have the discussion would demonstrate more closed-mindedness. But here you see, when you talk about certain things, you can't change their minds, and that's fine. Doesn't mean they're closed-minded, does it? A closed-minded person wouldn't involve themselves in the discussion at all. Interesting. Food for thought. But thank you, Vero. That's a good one. Gigi says, I was totally ready to disagree with this, but then I realized doing that would just prove the point. Gigi's on fire. Carmen says, most of us are open-minded until we have to apply our beliefs to ourselves and the things that happen to us. It's strange, but we tend to be more tolerant with others. And one thing comes to mind: infidelity, jealousy, relationship issues. Yeah, the human brain is brilliant at justifying our own behavior. It's brilliant. It's practically made for that. Which is why I think we tend to modify or pull apart and recontextualize what open-mindedness means to preserve our own self-image. Right? I'm an open-minded person. No one in this audience right now would categorize themselves as closed-minded and rigid. But for sure, there are people out there that would classify you as that. And I believe you. I don't think you're closed-minded and rigid. In fact, I would say everybody's open-minded. I think the problem is when a mind is so open that their brain falls out. Like in the as Eugene says here, true, not even for me. For instance, I can't accept flat earth theory. Yeah. So open-minded that the brain falls out. So isn't it a compelling one today? Because we wouldn't sit there and throw our hands up in the air and say, you know what, my problem is I just am unwilling to change my mind about anything. Mike says, I think most people make an effort to stay or become more open-minded, but being human also means drawing a line and knowing where you stand based on what you care about. Let's be honest, anyone can keep an open mind about can anyone keep an open mind about absolutely everything? Yeah. For example, I'm not open-minded about flat earth theory or about climate change being real or it being a massive contributing factor being man-made CO2 emissions. I'm not open-minded about that. I've reviewed the evidence for myself, and I think it's very hard for me to put myself in a place where I don't believe those two things are 100% true. Does that mean I'm closed-minded? I don't think so. Because I think refusing to be involved or engaged in the debate or avoiding information to the contrary maybe makes someone closed-minded. Perhaps the whole concept of open-mindedness is flawed to begin with, right? Again, I don't think anyone would describe themselves as closed-minded, and I think that gives us a clear indication. I think that gives us a clear indication that our thinking about open-mindedness is in many ways broken. Let's get into some comments I got on Instagram. Marco writing to us again. He says, I think that's true. Everyone likes to believe they're open-minded until an idea genuinely challenges their beliefs. Yeah. Everyone likes to believe they're open-minded until an idea genuinely challenges their beliefs. And I think that really depends on the person. If you're anything like me, when you come across an opinion that challenges your beliefs, the first thing you'll do is jump on Google and weigh up the veracity of the claim. Right? And it depends on those beliefs and how emotionally driven rather than logically driven they are. Like, let's not forget, most of the things that we hold dearest, most of the beliefs we hold closest to us have been inherited from family. Whether that be the football team you support or the political party you tend to support or the religion you subscribe to. Whatever it is, 9 times out of 10, those are inherited beliefs. And when you inherit those beliefs, they tend to have a lot stronger emotional connection than a logical one, right? Which is when you tend to get that pushback, that kind of defensiveness. Interesting. Thank you, Marco. Olivia says, I disagree. Some people really do make an effort to question themselves and change their minds when the evidence is there. Yeah, just like you, friends, right? Our wonderful bohemians in the live audience. You're going to get
ProBoh approved.
ProBoh approved. Yeah, because that is essentially what this show is about, right? About taking our beliefs and putting them under a microscope, questioning them and seeing if they stand up to rigor or the rigor of challenging. Damir says, being open-minded isn't about agreeing with everything. It's about being willing to reconsider. And most of us aren't as good at it as we think. I mean, well, look, Damir, that depends on the point of the journey that a person's on with that belief, right? If you can't change someone's mind, it doesn't mean that they are closed-minded. It just means that through years of assessment, perhaps through years of assessment and looking at the data, that person hasn't heard a compelling enough argument, and your argument isn't compelling enough either. Does that mean they're closed-minded? If someone is willing to talk to you about something that they find challenging, I would say that's the very opposite of being close-minded. Juliet, writing to us again, says the biggest blind spot is usually believing you don't have any blind spots. Oh my gods.
ProBoh approved.
Yeah. It's usually, isn't it, the kind of person that says, look, I'm open-minded, I've considered all the evidence. They're usually usually the ones with the biggest blind spots. I don't know how you say blind spot in Spanish. Punto ciego? No, that would be a direct translation, right? A blind spot is when you're driving and the mirrors in your car don't allow you to see one particular area of the road. That's a blind spot. And we all have blind spots. God, I know I have many of them. So yeah, it's an interesting one today. I mean, what is it? What are the crux of this argument? Are we really misrepresenting what open-mindedness actually is? I think we all experience that frustration when someone has a belief that we find erroneous. And when we scrutinize that belief, often for them, they are resistant to change. But does that mean they haven't considered evidence to the contrary? Because that is closed-mindedness. Someone who has been a victim of extreme propaganda, are they closed-minded? Like the people of Eugene's compatriots in Russia, they've been subjected. Eugene, by the way, if you're not watching us live, Eugene is a regular listener and contributor to the show. He joins us live every day in Russia, and he does not subscribe to the propaganda that happens in Russia, in the school system, then later in the media. But those people who do, are they closed-minded? Or have they just been subjected to one-sided information? And I don't think they are closed-minded. I think they've just been propagandized. Maybe Eugene would disagree with me on that. Shall we get to the results of the poll? I think we should. So when I made the statement that no one is as open-minded as they think they are, you guys said 71% true. Yeah, 71% true. Look, I mean, that's a far cry from where we landed on Instagram, right? 89% true. Right, well, let me just see, because the vote has been live. Let's see. Yeah, 89% true. We've brought that down to 71%. I think I'm happier with that. And there probably is some truth to it, isn't there? Like, no one is as fully open-minded as they tend to believe. Like, our brains wouldn't allow us to have such a negative self-image. No one describes themselves as closed-minded, do they? At least no one wants to consider the idea that they may be closed-minded and have developed an immune system from the truth. No one would describe themselves as thoroughly propagandized. I think open-mindedness is not measured by how many opinions you are willing to hear, but by whether any of them are genuinely allowed to threaten our own. Yeah. We all have beliefs that feel too obvious, moral, or personal to place on the table. The most open-minded person may not be the one who doubts everything, but the one who knows where their mind is most likely to close. Those who have engaged in enough meta consciousness, like enough thinking about how they think to understand that, hang on, my reaction, I'm feeling overly defensive right now. And are any of us really as good at that as we would like to be? Anyway, friends, all these things, they're just opinions. You know what Grandpa Bo would say about those, right? He'd say opinions, they're like buttholes. Everyone has one, they all stink, including mine. Let's move on to today's 100 Humans. Oh my God. It was a long walk to work today across snow-capped mountains and through river valleys, and on that walk, I encountered 100 humans, and I asked them all a question. Today's question was, let me just do some scrolling here, one second. Today's question was, name something that people often change their minds about. Nombra algo sobre que la gente suele cambiar de opinión. I asked them that question, they gave me their answers. I'm in possession of the top 7 answers. Your job in the audience is to identify those top 7 answers. Name something that people often change their opinions about. Big thanks to Emily, Juan Arreo, Pedro, Ivan Samrov, Anna Kasan, Mia, Raj, Arancha, many others on Instagram, @professionalbohemian if you want to be among them. Thank you for contributing. I'll get to your answers in a little bit. But right now, let's see what our audience is saying here. Where are we? A blind spot. We call that a dead zone, says Eugene. Thank you, Eugene. Artemisa's joining us. Good morning, Artemisa. Carmen says, once emotions come into play, rationality disappears. Yeah, I'd agree with that. In fact, you're going to get...
That gets the ProBoh stamp of approval.
Yeah. I mean, I think we could all be better recognizing where emotion takes over from rationality. And I think those people who are good at that, those are the real open-minded ones, right? Abierto de mente. Okay, something that people often change their minds about. Let's take a look. Other people, says Eugene. Other people. You know what? I'm going to give it to you. Other people isn't there in that exact wording, but relationships are, right? So you consider another person, your relationship with them, you think, you know what? I was wrong about that person. So relationships is there. Relaciones. 8 of 100 humans said relationships. Or, for the want of a better word, what Eugene said, other people. Vero also said relationships. Thank you, Vero. Mike says, accepting plans. Jomo, the joy of missing out. That's my biggest weakness. Oh, do you want to do this weekend? Oh, yeah, sounds great. And then the weekend rolls by and you want to kill yourself. Good one. Is accepting plans there? Plans. No, it's not. Great answer, though. Come on. Let's have a look. Favorite song? Well, the full answer from Gigi is favorite song, book, or film. Let's take the first one. Favorite song. Music. You know, perhaps you only ever listen to Gregorian chanting, oh ho 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 ho, and you suddenly discovered, I don't know, Pink. Oh my God, this is mind-blowing. Music. Is music there? Something people change their minds about. Suelen cambiar de opinión. Music. Is it there? Yes, it is. Well done. Political views, says Vero. Politics. Politica. Is politics there? Yes, it is. Well done. Politics is there. Guys, you're on fire today. Where to live. That's from Gigi. Where to live. Is it there? No, it's not. Good answer, though. Good answer. I did some 20 years ago. Food, says Vero. Food. Change their opinions about food. Do you want dessert? No. Then your dessert arrives. You know what? Can I have a taste? No. Is food there? Yes, it is. Well done. Food is there. 6 of 100 humans. It is the 5th most popular answer. To whether to take their coat or not before leaving home. You know, if I were to give you this, Dan would not like it. I tell you what, I'm going to mix Artemisa's answer with Eugene's answer. Clothes or fashion. Is fashion there? Moda? Yes, it is. Well done, Artemisa and Eugene. Artemisa actually does say that. Okay, fashion. Mike says marriage. Well, I would think marriage falls under relationships, doesn't it? But good answer, it is there. Ordering a salad, says Mike. Yeah, that's the biggest food regret for me. I accidentally ordered a salad. Let's go. There are 2 more answers that you haven't got. I tell you what we should do. We should pay some mind to our friends on Instagram. Juan Areo says marriage. Pedro says people, which we filed under relationships. Then we... Ivan Samrov says politics and something else. Something else. One of those inherited beliefs I mentioned earlier. But it does happen that later on in life, people consider that whether they believe in this or not. What am I talking about here? Let's see if I can prompt any of you to give this answer. If not, we'll just give the point to Ivan Samrov on Instagram. Annika San said the place they'd like to go on vacation. Yeah, I'd like to go on vacation, but sadly I've got 2 dogs. I don't know what to do with them. Arancha says, I wish it were government. Well, politics was there. It was the number 1 answer. Let's see. Mike, Eugene, and Artemisa in the live audience all say religion. Is religion there? Yes, it is. Well done. It's funny how those inherited beliefs tend to be the ones that later on in life, as we're a little older and we've considered our own thoughts and feelings, are the ones we abandon the quickest, right? All right, there is one more answer you haven't gotten. I've done this several times in my life. You know, it's hard to give you a clue for this one without giving you the exact answer. You know, you might jump on LinkedIn because you've changed your mind about this. Oh, there's a big clue. Come on. Jump on LinkedIn, pick your way through the AI posts, and you try to change what? Eugene and Mike are saying jobs. But you could still get a job in the same field, right? Oof, what is it? What is it? Can you get this? It's actually a false friend in Spanish that means the subject you study. And the false friend is this word. Oh, you're close. Artemisa's close here. I'll tell you what. Raj has actually said this on Instagram. Shall we give him the point? Artemisa says fields like me. Or as Raj says, career. Carrera profesional. Occupation, says Mike. Career. Is it there? Yes, it is. Well done, guys. Oh, my God. And that's the second time this week you guys have completed the 100 humans. Oh, my God. Look at you, on fire. Friends, you have done it. Let's go through the list. So I asked 100 humans to name something that people often change opinions about. Nombra algo sobre lo que la gente suele cambiar de opinión. In position number 7, we had music, música. In position number 6, we had fashion. 5 of 100 humans said fashion. Thank God. I used to have long hair and wear tight jeans and band t-shirts. In position number 5, we have food, comida, food. Oh, I wish I hadn't have ordered the salad. Oh, when there's pizza on the menu. In position number 4, with 6 of 100 humans as well, we had religion, religión. In position number 3, we had relationships, relaciones. A lot of you said marriage there. That was quite worrying. Be safe, guys. In position number 2, we had career, carrera profesional. Of course, when you study at university, you also call it a carrera, right? Your field of study. And finally, in position number 1, we had politics. Well done, guys. Well done. All right, guys, I'm going to call it a day for today. If you want to join us, don't forget the URL is twitch.tv/professional bohemian. I'll be back again, of course, tomorrow with more ProBoh Show madness, and I'll see you next time.